Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Supermen podcast. I'm Lionel and Matt, your host, and I'm pumped for this episode.
G'day everyone, I'm Matt McCabe. Great to be back again, Lionel, for another big conversation. Today on the Superman podcast, we've got a guest with an extraordinary story, interesting story. He's a builder, a business owner, a family man, and someone who's been in the construction game for over 20 years.
Time.
His name is Paul Saab, JP, as he's better known, and he's the owner and director of ID Fitouts and Construction. JP has built a reputation for delivering high-quality commercial design and construction projects across New South Wales. But beyond the building sites and the boardrooms, JP is a man of strong values, a lover of fine dining, a passionate angler or fisherman, and most importantly, a devoted husband and father. Please welcome JP.
Round of applause, please.
Yeah.
JP. Thanks for that rap. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yeah, it was a tough intro trying to get that one
That was
organised, but
Very humbling to hear.
I'm privileged today to have JP on. Unfortunately, JP is I'm probably his best brother-in-law. I would say that.
Yep.
He's been calling me, tried to call me brother for a while now, but yeah, JP, thanks for jumping on for a podcast. I finally dragged him by the skin, by his teeth to a podcast to get him in. He's nervous as.
Yeah. Hate being in front of the camera.
But today is just a bit of a general chat conversation. Yep. Welcome to the Supermen podcast. We're just here to talk about finances, stories, interesting stories, and I think you've got a cracker story to pretty much share with the world that no one really knows who JP Saab is. So JP, tell us where your story began, where you grew up, what you did as a kid, and what was life growing up if someone doesn't know who you are.
Oh man, it's a long. Thanks for the intro, Lon. You are definitely the favourite brother-in-law, the only one surviving at the moment. Sorry, George, but humble beginnings. Still a humble guy, to be honest. I try to keep it quite simple, keep life quite simple. Started as a young buck at Marylands. For you guys who don't know, it's around Parramatta area, also known as the Bronx of the West, of the Cumberland Highway or Burnett Street exit. It's a shithole. But we started there. Mum and dad, immigrant parents, no English, so to speak, in background, and they came across here in the late 70s, and
Fresh off the boat from Lebanon.
Fresh off the boat, mate. Still smelling like salt water. I'm probably a little Quintrex, little 5 metre tinny. So they came here. Yep, dad's a painter, mum's stay-at-home mum, and that old immigrant sort of mindset that you got to earn everything that you get. You got to work your backside off. That's all we ever taught. I'm one of 5. Got a younger brother and one older sister, and then 2 younger sisters. Unfortunately, she's married. One of my younger sisters is married to some bloke from the back of Burke, but you can't pick him. She picked him.
She found the sweetheart of the West.
Pick your family, mate.
Yeah, you can't pick your family. Yeah, she definitely fucked us up with that one, but you've been nothing but a breath of fresh air to the family, to be honest. We just went no different to anyone else's upbringing, really. Parents worked pretty hard to get us through like a Catholic school, Catholic primary school, and Catholic high school, and I would say definitely a massive blue collar crowd. Yeah, working long days and long nights.
And what was school like for you? Did you like going to school?
You can't ask questions that are fueled by his knowledge of who I am. That's unfair. You got to pull him up on that shit.
We have a script here, but we're going a little bit off script.
Forget the script. But I would say, my sisters, as you know, Diane and Fallon, swear black and blue that I've got ADHD. I've got a very short attention span. I did struggle a lot.
This podcast is going to be interesting, man.
Yeah, you'll see me walk off, come back. I found it hard to focus in school. I found it hard to take in information, and especially information that I wasn't keen on. Yeah. Construction information, DNT or woodwork, somewhat I aced in school. Yeah. But that was all she wrote. Still went to Year 12, made it through to Year 12 because Mum bribed me with a dog and said in year 10 if I stayed in school she'd get us our first dog, Jack Russell, Snoopy. Almost outlasted the freaking pyramids. Just wouldn't die, this dog, but yeah.
He was fed like a king, but I tell you.
Hand-picked food.
Oh, man. He's hand-peeled chicken, cooked chicken after everything.
100%. And that was it. Yeah, school was fun with mates and that. I sort of loved being a sort of a boy's boy and, sport tragic, as you know, and went through school and didn't really have an interest in going to university ever. Laboured probably since I was 6, to be honest. We were woken up at 5 a.m. throughout every school holiday, every end of term holiday, all 6-week holiday, me and my brother. We were, poked at 5:30 to wake up and say, get up, we've got to go painting. And
it was like, wake up, JP, we're going to work.
And if it was, that's exactly what it was like. And if we didn't wake up, it was like a glass of water on the head or a pinch of the toe. But yeah, we'd wake up, and it was sort of instilled in us at a young age. Like work was something that we had to do. It wasn't a choice.
No.
So we'd go and work, and all our mates were at school holidays at Maryland's pools, Granville pools. Shout out to that shithole. But and we were there sanding door jams till our fingers blistered, and we were just promised a Happy Meal. That was the best we got, me and my brother.
How the times have changed.
How the times have changed. And our kids now just don't even know what they got. But and I knew that if I didn't go good in school, I knew I'd have to take that construction route because it was all I knew. And I hated painting until today. It's something about your dad's trade that you live through that you end up hating. I don't have to say for you two gentlemen.
Yeah.
Same, what does your dad do?
Builder.
And you
He's going
and you're in financial planning.
Look at these hands.
You're nowhere near him, Like you got like Nivea cream hands.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. I hated painting. I had a big family of mine that were in construction. They still are today and quite successful at it. But yeah, that's I knew that if I didn't make it in year 12, it was going to be a long, hard journey through construction, So it was tough going. But
so leaving school, where did you move into? What was the trade of choice that you took on?
Mate,
cousins. How long were you in that for? What did you do?
Mum's nephews were in plastering and partitioning. So gyprock, drywall, framing ceilings. That's what I went straight into. Yeah. I was actually quite blessed because it was then later shaped the way I looked at fit out, because it paved the way where I would say 60% of fit outs today, office fit outs, are heavily partitioned, right? Mm-hmm. Walls, acoustics, glass, glazing, aluminium doors. So I only ever knew that path. I hated residential. I hated you sort of worked on people's emotions. So if I'm, renovating your house, you've saved up your whole life for this one dream home, then you're picking apart, defects. And please do this for free and give me this freebie, whatever. I hated that part of it, So from there, I did that for about 3 years and moved straight into commercial gyprocking.
Yeah.
For a gentleman called Todd Porter, Built Right Constructions. Yeah, shout out to him. So he was a good man. He taught me that, business was tough and he really had to fight for what he had. Ultimate professional.
Yeah.
And from there, we moved into the office world of partitioning. And I then did my, further on down the track, I then did a builder's.
So what would a day look like back when you started gyprocking? Well, from what time would you leave Maryland's and what time would you get home?
I would leave Maryland's in a Mazda Bravo Ute. I think $2,500 I paid for it. Yeah. I had my own toolbox on it. I'd leave at 5:30. 5:30 in the morning religiously was go time. You'd be either gyprock in a house in Coogee or Penrith. Every day was different. But I'd leave at about that time, 5:30, get back about maybe 4:35 every day. Mm-hmm. That was straight out of year 12.
Yeah.
So I didn't really take any time off to travel, etc.
Yeah.
Went straight into that. And it was fun. It was fun because you got out of that school grind. All of a sudden you were able to have your own cash. You were getting paid at the end of the week. You didn't need mum and dad as much.
We won't go into what you're spending your money on.
I don't know how sensitive your podcast is.
Yeah. Some of the sensitive listeners want to hear your story. Not all the stories.
Not the whole story. No.
But yeah, you were gyprocking for a number of years and then you sort of, what happened after that? You started a business.
Yeah.
You went into the business. But why did you want to go into business to start off with?
And like I said, Lionel, I had a family that you've now come to know and appreciate. They're people around us are all that blue collar working crowd, you know, working class, sorry. And everything around me, mates, family, all worked, and they were all entrepreneurial, and they all wanted to pave their own way. Yeah. They all wanted to make it themselves. They were all hustling hard. Yeah. And it rubs off on you. You are what you are, you know. I truly believe in that theory, you know.
100%. I think you're privileged to be in that environment, because not everyone's in that environment. You know what I mean? You could be from some other background that doesn't have any business in their life at all. So growing up, it's sort of naturally a progression that you move into.
100%.
And then when you're in it, you're actually got people to talk to around you as well.
And lean on and ask for advice. Yeah, 100%. And
that's what me and Matt lean on each other for in the advice world. The advice world is large to a degree, but really small in its own sense. Yeah. And we try and lean on each other to help each other out, elevate our game. But you've got that through your own family setting, where you'd go to maybe a family dinner and you wouldn't always be talking about business, but business comes naturally.
It's definitely a topic in that on the table, 100%. But that's what I'm saying. I know it sounds cheesy, but that's why my hats go off to you and Matt, like people that aren't around financial planning, and you paved your own way, and you came from that rugby league background, and you know what I mean, and then you took the chance to do that, but really never had a family network of financial planners or wealth managers around you. So I find that path a little bit harder than the one I took. But I'm blessed that I never borrowed a dollar, borrowed a cent. Yeah. I never loaned any money. I never had any business partners. The advice was there, but it was free advice. And I'm so glad it was, because you really had to like make it your own. And if you couldn't save that money and reinvest it in the company, the advice around you would always be there to lean on and give more advice. But no one's going to sit there and fund your dream. Yeah. You know,
no one's doing it for you.
100%, you know. So I was blessed to have a network of construction-minded people around me who are my best mates. Yeah. But the advice is there. Yeah. But the advice is definitely free.
But at the same time, the advice is there, but it's what you make of it
100%.
As well, and what you actually do with that advice.
100%.
You can give the advice to 100 different people, and they're going to go and do 100 different things with it as 100%. Well. And it comes down to the individual as well, and what they're doing, what drives them. So, and that's what we want to sort of bleed into today, is talking about what makes you tick. But at the same time, we want to still uncover your story at the start.
It's not that exciting.
We're fleshing it out. But at the start time, when you're starting out in business, what were the challenges that you started off with? Like some of the major things that scared the shit out of you?
Scary times. The first company I ever opened, Get Plastered Interiors. You would have fucking wrote about it.
Why didn't you keep that name,
so man? Listen, I was a jib rocker.
Get Plastered. What? At Parramatta? PJs?
Coming out of... Mate, I'm a jib rocker, and we plaster. And I wanted something catchy. I wanted someone to laugh when they read it, because I like a bit of humour. And so I established Get Plastered Interiors. Then some people would ring you up, but some people wouldn't take you that serious. So it was a one-man band, literally, with a U and a toolbox. And Get Plastered was the first one I ever read. First ABN name. I don't even know where it is. I don't even know. It could be still around. But I've seen it like there's heaps of different, like Get Pumped, you know, for concrete pumping.
We're in Bullamalup, so some business owner down here's probably got it somewhere.
Someone signed it up for Get Plastered. Plenty of pubs
on
around
a Saturday night.
Yeah, 100%. But that was the first one. That was the first one that I left when I left Todd. But when I left Built Right and went out on my own, and I registered the company, and I was so naive. I dead set said, mate, look, people know me as a jib rocker. My mates, my family, they know me that I'm a jib rocker by trade, a plasterer by trade. I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'm just going to get my own ABN and get my own phone number for my own business, and I'm just going to sit by the phone.
Wait for it to ring.
And just wait for people to start ringing in.
Yeah, because it would have been ringing hot right at the start.
Try 6 months of not a phone call. And that's what builds thick skin. That was a scary, scary time.
Yeah, that's the hustle. That's where the hustle starts. Yeah, right at the start, you got to dig deep, get into the trenches, and go and try different things, to go and speak to different people and all that sort of stuff. Now, and it starts at the start, but then it only just gets more elevated as you move in over time.
Man, 100% on. The grind was hard at the beginning. It was tough. Waiting by the phone, waking up every morning. you're trying to save up for property or a car, whatever, or putting money back into your business.
Yeah.
And you're making maybe $300-400 a week over one partition or one patch job. And then that guy would tell a mate, and that guy would say, mate, I've got a pretty well-priced partitioner or plasterer. Then organically, that's how I grew. Organically, the word got out that I was a partitioner. Then projects became large enough where I needed 2 or 3 offsiders or, framers or sheeters or setters. Yeah. And that's how the team started to grow. But it was 6 months to a year of just grinding, trying to get your name out there, trying to talk to builders that I knew, going to meet them for coffee, and and they're not going to really take you that serious, because builders that were at the time building dupies and townhouses and high-rise apartments, they could see you physically as a one-man band. Yeah. They've got no interest in you.
How old were you?
They've got teams of 30, 40.
How old were you when you started that business?
I was 22. 22 years old,
Jeez.
40 this year, fresh as.
Wow.
How the time flies. But it was scary.
And that goes like that, doesn't it? Like, can you remember can you still remember those days when you were back in?
If you talk to me about them, I can remember vaguely, times and parts of them. Yeah.
So what were your key learnings from those days? If you were to look back 18 years from now.
To wake up.
What would you do different now?
Oof.
If you were to restart all over again as a 22-year-old.
What would I do different? Honestly, the only thing I won't lie to you, Lionel, I had balls back then. I'm not joking, big balls to do stuff that 21-year-olds that were my mates were still at Mykonos. And I'd come back from a trip, 3 weeks early. They'd hang around for 4 weeks late. And I'd come back knowing that if I was to spend the last 5-10 grand that I saved, I had no more money to reinvest in more, because I took a punt where if I had saved 5 grand, I would then use it to actually bring on 2 or 3 partitioners, even with no work. Yeah. So I'd use that 5 grand buffer over the month to try and chase a bigger project. And I would go and aim for a high-end home at the back of Manly or Seaforth or Freshwater, and tell them that I had the numbers. I had the manpower to finish it in 2-3 weeks. And then once I won that project by negotiating and the gift of the gap, that I got.
That's one thing you do have.
I would then win the job and spend that extra, the last 5 grand I had, no word of a lie, on those 5 tradesmen that were sitting there doing nothing. Yeah. But if anything different I would do is I would probably spend a lot more time networking, not being so nervous to approach builders and developers.
And that's what people learn with over time, but you don't know until you're in it.
It's a young head on old shoulders.
But guys listening to this, and Cooper, you should be listening to your dad. All right, you needed a
shout out to my son Cooper, mate. They got different mold, Lionel.
Yeah, they do have a different mold. But at the same time, it comes back to the same principles that you learn at the start of life.
100%.
Hard work.
Wake up.
You've got to work, hard work. You've got to make sure that you're in it to network and speak to people, and always have an open communication with people. Never 100%. Close down or shut a door.
Always keep the door never open. Burn a bridge. Yeah. If there's one thing I learned, it's so many people. I think I was 22 years old. I finished an entire duplex, and I'd quoted the whole dupy for about 20 grand. And 20 grand for a 22-year-old, you're probably making at most 20%. The guy just said, "I'm not paying you," and that's it. There was probably 10 grand left, and that was the jam. And he said, "I'm not paying you." I said, "Man, why?" He said, "I'm not paying you. You're going to take me to court. He just dead set chose to not pay me to enhance his profits. And, said, the owner's not paying me. I'll pay you when I get paid. 6 months, 1 year.
Excuses.
18 months. And then I lost that 10 grand, and then pick up and start again. And I don't know if this new generation has the ability to do that. Like, I know there's this young chap here in front of us running the podcast, but I look at these people and you want to hope that they still got that grind in them. Like the 21s and the millennials and you want to hope that they've got that grind and they're willing to wake up and come to work, an hour early, stay back an hour late. I don't see it often enough.
Yeah, tough times create tough people, to be honest. So when there's not tough times around, the hope sometimes just falls away because it's too easy to go and do something else.
So easy to get a full-time job and not worry about the gambling.
There's no resilience. You got to train and teach and force resilience into people. You know what I mean?
100%.
Resilience is
But
showing
it
up.
starts with kids.
Yeah,
I went
exactly
to my
right.
son's under 5 footy game.
There you go.
You don't keep scores until like under 15s or something now.
Yeah, like what a cop-out that
It is
is.
a bunch of
Like
bullshit.
how are kids meant to learn about loss or winning or
Competition.
losing,
Yeah, how do you win?
competition?
Man, do not get me started. I don't know how sensitive this podcast
Nah.
is. But that's what I'm massive on. And God bless his son, by the
Yeah.
way. But that's what I'm massive on. Like, when we were under 5s, under 6s, my son plays league and soccer, we'd keep score. The parents would keep score. And we were very vocal about you lost. But we had a network of parents that had all bought in to making sure that kids knew that it was a competition, even though the Parramatta
Don't worry,
district-
my son still realised he lost.
There
he
you
still
go.
realised
And
he
you
lost
should-
and he was
You should be
disappointed.
proud of that.
Yep,
And you
So-
should tell him when he loses, but also congratulate him when he wins.
100%.
That's what I'm
'Cause
saying.
life's all about winning. Not
Man.
about,
So when
not
you do
about
get
everyone
to
getting
adult
equal.
life and you're 21, 25, and you do get setbacks with people not paying, it's not the first time you've ever had a setback in your life.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not your first setback.
You've learned about it, and you've had your parents around you. You've had people around you
It's not a shock
with your
horror.
initial
Yeah.
setback. So yeah, it's not
That's
a
a
shock.
great point, man. Like, I don't know. It makes me nervous. Like, I've taught my son and my 3 beautiful daughters to have that grind and have that. I don't want to shock them later on.
Yeah.
It's the real world. And even till today, there are clients that choose to not pay their final payment, and now you're talking not 20 grand. You're talking bigger dollars.
So
but-
just want to shout out.
Shout
Shout out. Well,
out to
just out to everyone out there. Yeah.
No.
There's no bleeping in this podcast as well. We're one shot wonders.
Yeah.
So you say they will hear what you say.
Yeah. Shout out to this guy who hasn't paid in 3 months. But no, I don't know. I just, lessons learned from the old JP. I tried to live with no regret, to be honest, Lionel. I love the fact that I made heaps of mistakes. I truthfully, hand on heart, love how many mistakes I made. And heaps of times you'd cry yourself to sleep. You'd be 4 a.m. walking the streets, thinking about your next move, thinking about how you come out of this 10 grand hole that you're in because this guy chose to not pay you. It really, really shapes how much and how I react in today's real world.
Yeah.
And it helps me really deal with the stresses of the real world today. You know, playing on a bigger playing field with heaps of times where people have chosen to not pay $200,000, $300,000 invoices and then push the boundary of take me to court, you know.
Yeah.
And then you've got to fight that fight, you know. But I don't reckon I would have that fight in me
You wouldn't have the resilience
if I didn't start earlier
Nah. If
at
you
those
didn't-
5:30 wake-ups when I was 6 and 7.
Exactly right. So
You
yeah,
know,
that's
I'm telling
the lead into that now. So tell us what inspired you to start ID Fitouts in construction, which is your current business. Tell us about your business, what you guys do, how you do it, and what sets you apart from the rest.
Bill Wright Constructions, the guy that I left as a commercial fit-out guy. Sorry if I'm not looking at you a lot because I've got a massive nose. So
All good.
I'm trying to
I'll
not look
forgive you.
that way.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying to look straight every now and then.
side profile for you guys if you do get it. It'll be large.
It's fucking terrible. But yeah, and the hairline comes in and, you know.
Oh,
but
don't talk about the greys. Jeez, we
that's
won't.
not zoomed in, is it?
No, it is.
He said from the waist up. That should be a
the
pretty zoomed out
definition on the camera is high
high
in
res.
this set. So
It's a pretty cool podcast room. It's epic. Shout out to Wisecast. Fucking yeah, massive. But yeah, back to what I was saying earlier about Built Right Constructions. They were a small firm. It was only like him and I, and we're only really fitting out work in Norwest at the time, smaller pocket. And like I said, I had a network around me that were entrepreneurial, that were going from dupies to townies to high rise.
yeah,
Whether I liked it or not, it was instilled in me to grow. I had known that I can't ever hit a flat area. I'm just not designed, I'm not programmed to ever just say that I'm going to only work and design 200 square meter fit outs for the rest of my life. There's no drive in it for me.
The ambition.
It's not the money,
Yeah.
the ambition. I've got to wake up every morning pumped to go to work. So he wanted to stay in that lane. I wanted to grow. I asked for if we were to come in as a partnership at the time. He sort of laughed at me. 22-year-old Lebo kid from Maryland, with a goatee and earrings and a white coral necklace. And he said, mate, no fucking chance. But so I said, mate, okay, I'll prove you wrong. So it was that mindset of that challenge to go out that built ID Fitouts, that was get plastered, interior by design projects, interior by design lining, but the interior by design was the ID, and that stuck around. I'm quite honoured to say that I've never, touch wood, bankrupt or liquidated a company. It's always been the same ABN, and just the name changed because interior by design. People ringing us thinking we're architects.
Yeah,
the name was too long.
Because you were in business for a few years, and that's when we met through your sister, through my wife. Yeah. And me coming down to Sydney, I was looking for work, doing some work as well, and JP would give us some work sometimes.
Some labouring work, 100%. Slight
was he any good?
He's a workhorse, mate. This guy's a machine. You know what's sad? You can not sad
country
for me.
Boys.
The country boys can't beat the country boys, man. That's the. The thing is, you see an entrepreneur coming a mile away because they know they're in it temporarily. It's hard to explain that to anyone. It's hard. Like, he's there as a labourer, knowing that he's making cash for something else. He's not in it to labour for the next 5-10 years, on the move. And then you see him like JP, as he's labouring. Why don't you do this? Why are you framing so early? This is a guy who'd never built anything in his life. Why are the plumbers on site now? And the site manager's on site talking to him as the labourer. And he's there saying, mate, it's all wrong here. I'm thinking, mate, where do you find 3 of them? You know? But what we've learned, even our current head of operations, shout out to Dave, but we talk a lot. He's been in the industry for 27 years. And we talk about those entrepreneurs. They come across your desk and they keep going. And you think they're only destined for bigger things. You can't hold them back, And he came in, just for, some cash and some labouring and 100%. Like,
I was the demo.
And your sister.
And unfortunately, my sister's ringing me saying, look, I know he's a deadbeat, give him work. No, he was a machine. He's a machine worker.
No, I was privileged. I was privileged because I needed money living down in Sydney, coming from Dubbo, moving down to Sydney, and
that's massive.
I'm living by myself with a mate as well. There's no sort of like family support for us. It's like, here you go and do it on your own. Move down to Sydney and start playing footy. And then when that doesn't work out as well, or while you're training at the same time, so I was pretty much at uni, going to uni, doing the financial planning and accounting side of things.
That's the hard
playing
work.
Footy semi-professional as well, training 3 nights a week.
Body getting bashed.
And then at university, and then I'd do landscaping during the day. And then when I could pick up some extra hours, I'd ask JP, have you got any work on tonight? He goes, I'll go to this site at North Sydney, grab the keys here, do that, grab the truck, demo the whole office, and take it to the tip and then go home. So
honestly, I would ring Fallon, my sister. I love her to death, by the way. But I'd ring her behind my back and say, don't let this guy go. Not because, I was charging him out at $70 an hour. and, paying him 20. But, nah, that's actually a good one. Don't edit that out. But I would like tell her, like, this guy's doing it with a smile on his face. And she's a ballsy chick, man. She'd be like, we're here to build a future together. She loves sending emails. She loves being structured, loves setting things in place. And he's a guy landscaping during the day in 30 degrees, playing league, getting bashed for 3 days a week in training, then playing, and then ringing me at night saying, what can I demo?
Yeah.
You can't.
Crazy.
Show me where that guy is. Show me where there is that in a
2025.
Show me.
They're not there.
And I pray to God it's out there, and I just haven't seen it. We had a cadet start last week. Sorry, not last week. He left last week.
Started the week before.
He started a month ago. And we teamed up with this company where they bring us university graduates.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be a project manager. And we told him he'd start as a contract administrator. And the goalpost shifted. So we said, okay, you're not going to learn nothing in this office behind this screen. Get out on site, run beside the site manager, and get to know how we do things. The site manager got him to labour for about 4 weeks. 4 weeks, that was the end of him. He just said, I could not face the early starts, the dust on me. I'm not here to sweep floors. He's a good kid, good, honest kid. but wasn't willing just to say that, okay, I'm just gonna keep it quiet. I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna prove myself for 2 months before JP and ID Fitouts give me a shot at the office role. He's gone up in smoke. The leading candidate in that sort of training facility, up in smoke. You know, parents, doctors, you know, very well educated kid, but probably has never seen that 5:30 a.m. wake up.
He wants to do construction management, doesn't like dust.
Work that out. You know, doesn't like to work on site. You know,
that's the problem with today's society. But there's so many other options out there. Whereas back in the day, going before our days, if you had a job, it was a privilege to have a job. Yeah. Not about just...
It was a badge of honour.
It was a badge of honour. Oh, I've got a job. Oh, I want to keep this job. I don't want to lose the job because it's giving me income. I don't know whether I'm going to get another job. Whereas nowadays, it's like, oh, he can go from to the next one, to the next one, then to the next one type thing pretty easily as well.
But that's what I was going to ask you. Like, there's an age gap between you and I, right, in different age categories. And there's a massive age gap with these two gentlemen running the podcast. Is that... it's a world I don't know. I don't know the social media world. I've never been in front of a camera, ever.
Yeah.
But is it because you guys have an opportunity, or you know of younger blokes to have, is it because it's easy to make money on YouTube, or how come it's so easy to part ways with jobs? Is it because...
So many jobs out there. There's so many people. There's
because no one's
so
willing
many
to
jobs
work
out there, and there's not as many willing to work. So finding talent is hard. Or for someone that actually wants to work.
Because they can bounce.
Yeah, because they can bounce. And there's so much more money in the world these days with
and the unemployment rate's the lowest it's ever been.
Far out.
So. Yeah. And at the same time, there's so many more businesses out there in the world now. Not as many people here in Australia. That's why we need skilled people in the workforce. So, but in saying that, like the younger generation coming through, there's so many different types of ways to make money now. It's not just about going to work, finding a job.
9 to 5.
There's
7
heaps
to 3.
of different ways. There's the social media, the internet.
That's massive.
Has played a massive way on how you can actually get rich. Like there's young kids on YouTube reviewing toys and
see, it's a world I don't know.
Shit like that, where they're actually getting views from YouTube and getting
salaries.
paid.
Yeah.
And they're like really? 5, 6, 7 years old. These like
7-figure salaries.
I think one of the richest people on YouTube is a kid that just reviews toys.
What?
Just reviews toys. That's crazy. It's unbelievable. So there's so many different ways
different
about
world, man. And what is that? Okay, then, but what does that kid now do? Does he retire at 18? Or what does he do when he's 18? When he's 25 and YouTube's dried up and nobody wants to hear him?
Yeah, exactly.
Does he
right.
go back?
You look a bit creepy reviewing kids' toys at 18 and 25, right?
Yeah. But in saying that, the thing is, that's why a podcast is pretty powerful, because the podcast goes on to the wider stream audience and it can be replayed and replayed and replayed, and the streams and the views keep going. So for him, all his videos are on YouTube, which is going to be an ever-evolving streaming
stay there for
option.
10 years.
And
They
they
will
just
still be that kid.
and
still
people
gets the
just keep
commission.
clicking and they keep getting paid. So it's like an annuity of income stream coming through. He's always going to have people coming through watching his videos.
What's the idea for you two gentlemen with this podcast? Why the podcast?
Yeah, well, we started the podcast. Me and Maddie are both financial planners, and always it's better to have a sounding board to talk to each other about the shit that we go through day to day. Clients, family, life, business,
right,
all that sort of stuff. So we just sort of said, like, instead of talking about it all the time between us, we're actually keeping all the information away from someone else that can actually go out and learn about that stuff. So we said let's just start a podcast. Then we set a date and said, let's just do the podcast. And then we got to the date where we were shooting a podcast. We're like, Maddie, what's the name?
On the day?
What do we do? What's the name? On the day. And I'm like, fuck. And that was our sort of stalling point. We didn't have a name. And I sort of, over time with clients, when I go out and see my clients, I go out and see them in person, talk to them in person, go and shake their hand, do like the tea and coffee type thing.
I love that.
The old school way. And a lot of my clients, when I would go out and see them, they'd say, oh, my Superman's coming today.
They started watching.
They started saying
Like,
that to
my
me,
money
to their
man.
friends.
My superannuation
right,
man.
right.
my,
Here comes the
my
Superman.
Superman's coming today.
They led you to the name.
No, they were
Yep.
saying it to me, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's going to trigger for us to something short, catchy, and sharp that actually really displays what we do? And we look after superannuation. We give advice on super. So I was like, we are the Supermen.
That's a cracker.
podcast. So
That's a cracker. Shout out to whoever gave you that name first.
yeah, there's quite a few old ladies
Well,
out.
they were shouting it out.
Yeah, or every time I'd say, "Oh, yeah, my Superman's coming today," and
That's
they'd
man,
tell their
Superman
friends.
podcast. I love that.
Yeah,
You love superannuation.
What?
It's
Don't
beautiful,
G me
man.
up. I love it. Yeah, I do love it. Yeah. No.
why do you love superannuation so much? JP? Just tell the audience. This is probably one of the things where I was like, should I get my brother-in-law JP on? He can spin a yarn. He's got the gift of the gab and can talk. But at the same time, this is my one big fear of all the listeners out there hearing from the Supermen podcast why you love super so much.
Oh man, if you love reinvesting your super like Matt is, and people that I know who can reinvest it and turn a good profit with doing that, I just don't like the concept of making money into a pool that I can't touch till I'm 60. I just see the world in a light where I need to be spending the money that I make with my 4 children and my wife now today.
Yeah.
I have this concept that I don't want to do tomorrow what I can do today. And I use that in any aspect of my life. If I don't feel like going for a run because, the body's aching or whatever, I might wake up tomorrow crook. And I've lost that opportunity to run today. So I will run with a body ache.
Tell us your real story why you don't like super.
Yeah, but I don't like spending money and
Is it the tax rate, the 15%?
Or is it?
Or when you get to 60, the 0% capital gain?
man, when you get to 60, there's no energy in the body, and you can't be,
Shout out to all our listeners over the age of 60.
Yeah, and listen, take the advice from these gentlemen. I'm a little bit erratic and loose, and I mean that in the sense that I just want to make money and enjoy that pool that I make through investments or my company with my children now, creating the memories today. That's all it is. People like that safety net. People like that nest egg for later, that safety barrier when they're. An entrepreneur doesn't see, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, an entrepreneur doesn't see what he can do at 60. An entrepreneur wants to see it and make it and live it today. And
So it's a bit like the taco ad, though. Remember the taco ad with the little girl? The soft shell or the hard shell?
which one? Which one?
Why not both?
Why not both?
Why not both, JP?
One that stands up. Why not both? I agree. Why not both? You can definitely have. I actually have both. I just hate it because I hate, even if I turn a good profit through the super, I don't like knowing that it's there and then I can't touch it. Then I've got to reinvest it again. Then I can't touch it again. And even though I'm already 40 today.
The big thing is a lot of business owners, they can't access the super money. And that's the conversation that we have daily with our clients as well.
Yeah. And what's
It's
the advice around it?
Well,
because you guys, gentlemen, truly believe in super, right? But
yeah, 100%.
Because of the tax rate. Tax
Yeah.
rate's the biggest thing. I
It's-
can't get you a tax rate of 15% anywhere else.
no, that's
Or 0%
Fact.
from 60.
fact.
Anywhere else.
And
Tax free.
And
That's
that
the
is
biggest
so
thing. That's
attractive.
where
That
I
is the
start.
most attractive thing. A lot of people that work 9 to 5, and my father-in-law is one of them. He worked a 9 to 5 job, I think for 40 years at Visi Recycling. Didn't really invest his money elsewhere. Was happy to live that Aussie dream of paying off your mortgage, making sure you owe nobody anything, and just chipped away at that, did that well, and now is happy to live off the super. And I find that, and to your credit, you're helping your followers and your clients reinvest and make sure that super money increases over time. Well, he didn't do much of that.
Yeah, we are educators first on the advice piece. We've got to educate clients on what we do and how we can do it. So the education piece comes into it first. You know what I mean? So you got to understand the concepts behind each person's scenario. A business owner compared to an individual pay-as-you-go employee has a different mindset on money, Whereas an employee business owner can go out and if they want to work extremely hard and do long hours and days and meet new people and have a lot of potential for generating revenue activities, they can go and do all that stuff. Whereas an employee has a set income based on what they're capped at, and they may have a bonus if they're lucky with their employment arrangement. So you've got to help them choose wisely which direction is more appropriate for them based on what they want to do long term.
I agree.
And the harder the piece is, the harder it is, the longer you are out from 60, the harder it is to determine which way you go for the money. Do you pay down your debt or do you put money into super? Now, we know as advisors that
that's a very good point.
As an average, like the investment returns, you can't really guarantee the returns. But if you're investing in funds that have a higher growth allocation, usually it should outperform what the interest rates are on your home loan on the long-term average.
There you go.
So that means if you've got money in super, and when you get to 60, you can actually transfer the super account into this thing called a pension account. And then you can draw the money out tax-free. It's tax-free money.
That's the game changer.
That's the game frame.
The only part we disagree with is that everything that you can do is at 60.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just don't want to be doing that when my dick doesn't work.
Right. So then you just got to weigh out whether it's a...
Do you know what I mean? Like, I just want to be able to do that when you got the energy and the stamina to do. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like, and again, people who work 9 to 5, 7 to 3.
Yeah, it's a different...
It's very hard to get that cash flow now and build that, that capital 100%. Now.
Exactly right.
To reinvest.
So it's a life stage process of what you want to do. What's important to you? Do you want to live life now, or do you want to reduce your tax and put some money into super? It's horses for courses. Everyone's different. You can't.
But to your taco thing, can you do both?
Why not?
Can the Supermen? If the Supermen are achieving both, then I'm all in. Do you know what I mean? If you can show your clients and your followers that you can do both, I've never had that sold to me. Or told to me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Free advice, leaving the podcast. But I was never geared that way. And again, back to our cultural upbringing and the circle around us.
What are the Lebanese?
Think of super. I don't know if you've got any Lebanese clients, man.
Not many.
I've got this gentleman here from Wisecast laughing at us. He looks like a Lebo, but his nose says it all. But I would say that it's not instilled in you to build up that super fund. It's an entrepreneur.
Cash king. Cash is king.
Man, I'm telling you, it's a migrant mindset that makes me emotional talking about it. If I told you what our parents came here with, and there's no question that the European, the Middle Eastern community built this country, in my opinion. Those immigrants that came here built this country, whether it was through construction, whether it was through medicine, whether it was through, civil works, whatever it was. I truly believe that to be the case because I've gone back and looked back at our past generations and seen what they've done and what they've achieved. And all of them have the same sort of mindset. Work hard, get that money, reinvest. Whether it's buy a property, to sell it further down the track, knock it down, build it, renovate your house, on-sell it. There's no real attachment to the Aussie dream of buying your own home and just paying it off. Just paying it off, it's not enough, Lionel. When I tell you can hear it in my voice. Yeah. It's not something that I'm giving you as my opinion. It's a belief.
That comes back to the legacy and the family piece.
Fact, that's what I'm telling you. Like my mum spent probably the best part of my whole teenage life calling me a donkey because she felt that it was an absolute failure to leave and not go to university. Because she felt that if you go to university, you become a doctor, an engineer, you become a builder, whatever it was, it would then
a good paying job.
Make great paying job. Guess what? You can make a lot of money to reinvest.
What are you going to tell her? Look at me now, Tata.
Nah, I'm a long way from look at me now. Honestly, Lon.
But like
I see people, my clients. I would say my bare minimum client, no word of a lie, is worth 200 million. We're dealing with private landlords. We're dealing with institutions. We're dealing with the Charter Halls of the world, Dexus, Stocklands, Investor. And then you've got the private Singaporean money. You've got private Chinese money. And they've also paved a massive, massive path for the way that I look and see things. They drive you so much. Seeing the way they live, the way they are ruthless not ruthless in their mindset of work, not the way they deal with people. They're ruthless in growing. They're ruthless in trying to find that next deal. I've been so fortunate and blessed by God to have seen that around me for the past 15 years. Those people, when you look at them and then you look at you may as well place me into that pot there with all that bark. But it's kept me like massively humble. And my faith has kept me massively humble, my family. And the best part of keeping humble is people like you. People like my cousins that you've met who are my best
there's
friends.
about 10,000 of them.
Well, there's a significant network of wealth amongst those 6 or 7 mates.
So much.
And you go to a dinner and we're getting kicked out of a dinner, right? Because we're too loud and rowdy and sometimes drunk. But the thing is, they keep you humble. No one talks about business in that dinner, in that barbecue, at that baptism, at that communion. Man, we're talking about how ugly your pants look, or how you annoy Fallon, or how I stuffed up at the soccer game on the weekend. It's been something that's been so life changing because it keeps you so grounded. Whether it's a houseboat on the Hawkesbury for 3 days, and we're just hammering each other, fishing and playing, cricket and volleyball and that. The wealth has never ever paved the way. We're driven by how well you succeed as Supermen. Makes me so happy. How well a mate of mine, George Karam, has built BF Money. Yeah. Or how well Emicon has grown interstate. I know I'm doing a fair bit of shout now, but these guys have been around me as my best mates my whole life. And they've paved a massive way to know that you can make money and still have the drive to grow, because we're not driven by the greed of money. We're driven by success.
So what does success mean to you?
Man, I heard this saying once that put me in, and I, as Lionel tells you, I never cry. I don't know why, but I never cry. I heard this guy say success is my son and my 3 daughters wanting to hang out with me when they're 40. Yeah. That's success. That is something that whether they buy into the business, whether they take their own path, I want to, like I spoke back to the super, I want to make the money now to create a platform for them where it's filled with memories, family dinners each night, me never missing a game of soccer or a game of league or gymnastics or acro. You have to be there. That's success. For them to hang out with me when they're 40, don't worry about any more podcasts. Anyone who tells you anything else has no success story. I'm telling you. Unless you don't have kids. If you have kids and they want to be around mum and dad when they're 40 and they're married and they've got kids, or if they're single and they're traveling and they're checking in on you every day. I heard this guy say it and it almost brought me to tears. I think, and I'm driven by that every day. If I can make and build a platform that my son and my 3 daughters can say, like he gave it a massive crack, then you think dad was always there. What's the point of making 500-600 million and you blink and your kids are 20 years old and you've never seen them?
Yeah, exactly.
With Con and Harvey and Lily. Yeah. If you travel a lot for work. Yeah. And it kills you. And I know it kills you. But you can only imagine that sacrifice you're making now. But I know you never miss a coaching day, a training day. You work your life around being there for the kids, because what's the money to you if you blink and your 5-year-old son has left league, he's 18, he's hanging out with chicks and he doesn't want a bar of you, and you're stuck in the office still working, chasing what dream? Yeah. That's how I see success. If I can work hard now, if I say, I can't wait to spend my money at 60 because I'm in the office 9 to 5, 7 till 10, 7 till 11 p.m. and then I blink and my son doesn't want to know me, fuck success. Forget it. So
what's all that? That's the thing, awesome, is like, what's all the hard work for when at the end of the day you haven't enjoyed built the relationships over time to be able to enjoy your wealth over time as well.
100%.
One of a client that I have, he was a son of a doctor, and he talked about how his dad would always leave. He would never see him in the morning. Yeah. He'd never see him at night. He'd only see him sometimes on the Saturdays and Sundays. That was like for 16 years. And then when he got to the point where he was like growing up and he's trying to live his own life, his dad wanted to come back because he had made the money then.
See,
but he's missed the opportunity throughout the course of his whole
It was
childhood life, it's too late.
And that's what makes me upset. A lot of people, especially in my industry, big wealth players, right? Big money makers. I often give them that advice. And I feel like that's why they gravitate towards me, because I'm not driven by money. You know, fair enough, I love success because I feel like my old man didn't give it a red hot crack. You know, my mum sure did, but you know, give it a red hot crack raising 5 kids, but he didn't give it a red hot crack to make it. And I feel like if I can give it a red hot crack, and Cooper and Harper, Indian Willow can see the red hot crack while still being in their life all the time, they know that they can still have a shot at giving it red hot crack through hard work, still waking up early, still coming home after a hard day's work, but knowing that we're still at family dinner at 6 p.m. around that table. You know, you can still work around that, you know. Once they go to bed, you can always open up a laptop. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's strange. I just hope we talk about that more. I mean, not me in this podcast. I hope people start talking about society that, you know, all right, man, it's mad that, you know, Elon Musk is worth 150 billion. But you go ask him if he'd give that all up if his kid said he didn't want to bar him at 16.
Which one?
Go ask Elon Musk.
13 kids from 13 different mums.
Oh, how many kids he has? Yeah, well, I don't follow social media. Does he have that many kids?
He's got 14 or 15 kids.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
I thought he had one.
He's got a rocket.
And he's got a rocket. That's a massive ego play. But I don't know, man. I feel like if you keep that mindset, good things come to you. You know, and working hard is fantastic to instill in the kids, but you got to work hard for something.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. What drives you every day? Like, is that
you know what drives?
But not for me, but for everyone else.
For everyone else.
Do you hear what drives JP every day?
Again, the old man just never had a red hot crack. Gambled a fair bit, spent a bit of all the money that was ever saved. You know, worked hard, worked his ass off, but wasn't willing to make the sacrifices that needed to be made at the time. And I'm definitely willing to make those sacrifices now to build and build a platform for my kids to be proud of what we built. I always look at a lot of our clients who've got generation wealth, and I think, man, I wish I ever got $10 to put towards my Mazda Bravo when I first bought it. No, but it made me who I am today. So I'm blessed that I never did. But that generational wealth, I wanted to say, you know what, I'm going to start it. I'm going to start a generational platform for my kids to hopefully take and expand for their kids. But I want them to do that whilst they remember only the 3 pillars of faith, family, and fitness, and which is health, you know. So they're 3 pillars that get spoken about a lot in my home. That's what drives me, Lionel. My 4 kids and a cracker of a wife that's stuck by me since I drove my little Daihatsu Charade. That had a fork as a gear stick.
She's been there.
And coolant in the back in case, you know, it overheated every time. That's how she met me. That's who I was at 18. I'm no word of a lie. No aircon, 2-door Daihatsu Charade, red Daihatsu Charade with a fork as a gear stick. I'll never forget.
Good things come to those who wait.
And hasn't she fucking waited?
She's done a time.
Fuck, she's done her time, mate. She's done more time than Ivan Milat. Done time. Like she's done time, but that's what drives me. And you know, like Matt, you got 3 kids, and I'm not sure, Matt, you 2 kids. Man, why are you waking up in the morning? You know,
same thing.
Family. True. You know, I hope you're not. I hope that's why. You know, if I could preach anything, even to anyone, it's until you have a kid, you know that you got to build them a legacy that they can be proud of. And ID Fitouts, from where it was to where it's still got to go, it's still got a long way to go. A long way to go. Until it gets there, I'll keep driving to get it to that platform to show my kids that starting with nothing, with absolutely nothing, you can still build that dream. You can still build a legacy, you know? And
so
I hope.
Talking about that platform and legacy, what about from the investing side of things outside of business?
Yeah.
Lionel said you've been in the property market, investing, DAs, developments, you've jumped around, you've learned a little bit.
Learn a little bit. Yeah. Still got a lot to learn. But yeah, I've been blessed by God to be have a company that's cash flow driven. And I invest a lot of that cash flow back internally into the business, whether it's growing the team. Like I said, in 2011, there was 4 of us. 4 years later, there were 6 of us. Today, there's 27 of us. So that's money that's been reinvested and not spent. I don't drive any fancy cars. I don't wear any designer label clothes. Yeah, that don't break down. But yeah, I don't do any of that. I don't spend much money on that. So I've been able to reinvest that money in property. Only because I love it. Again, it's all on you. I love it. I love a reno. I love a fixer-upper. I love flicking the odd,
Flipping.
the odd shittest house in the best street. I love, purchasing a property that has potential, rezoning value, or a property that has the potential, like I've bought a couple of houses that then got, we went lodged DAs for, co-living homes, and they've been a great cash flow asset.
Co-living, like boarding
homes. They've given them a new name now. So I've enjoyed doing that with other syndicates and partners and on my own. Look, when the cash flow is there, you can choose. You either refinance that GDS and, spend your entire month's income paying off what you so-called own, or you reinvest it in something that's got great capital growth and doesn't depreciate. I don't think property, for whatever, for its cycles that have come and gone in my time, I just don't see property in Sydney, in this phenomenal country. I don't see it depreciating. It might go through a cycle here and there that might make people a little bit nervous, but over my time, it only goes north.
So in saying that, a lot of listeners here are younger people or they're just starting out. What would you give them some advice about?
Save that 20%. Save that 20%. Work your ass off. Give up that Kentucky tour every now and then. Get that 20% of that home or that suburb that you've eyed out as an investment, as a great investment location, whether it's around a great new, up-and-coming town centre or a great university, or, a train station. We know that infrastructure areas that are up and coming, or an industrial play where they've got a great, long-standing tenant. I think the Sydney property market is out of room. As the closer you go to east, you wonder why they never go south. They just physically ran out of land, Yeah. I just don't know if you can go wrong with property on that North Shore, eastern suburb, line, eastern suburbs. And out west is booming, whether it's that Penrith area or, around Badgerys Creek. Now I know it's a bigger play there on bigger land plays. But those up-and-coming guys, save that 20%. Get that figure in mind that you think you can save, Think about maybe saving up that 100 grand. Go to your broker, go to your banks, talk to them, man. They're there for you. I'm telling you, there's ways of getting that loan. And
your financial planner, even
your financial planner is the greatest. I'm not just saying that because dead set. I'm not fucking giving that a shout out. Dead set, great start. The financial planner, get that 100 grand. Go speak to those financial planners, banks, and brokers. Find out and single out a pocket that you want to invest as a goal. There are still properties out there, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. Look around that Queensland pocket, Brisbane's booming. There's an opportunity everywhere. But if you don't invest the time, if you haven't got your ears to the ground, if you're not speaking to agents across the board and interstate, get to know your agents. Get to know your sales agents. Speak to them regularly. Build rapport with them. Because if you cold call an agent, make no mistake, they've got 20 or 50 or 100 other relationships that are, that they've built and that they trust. So build that rapport, buy into property. I don't know, I can't advise much about shares. Shout out to one guy that once sold me some shares or told me to jump on some Zip shares.
Zip shares.
Zip? Remember that Zip, the Afterpay platform?
I thought you were talking about Zip boilers.
I got plenty of them in the warehouse, but Zip shares. So I spent 30 grand, bought them for $12 a share. I think today they're at 80 cents. I think that was the first and last time I bought shares.
That's one thing about it's called concentration. You're concentrating all your money into one share.
Yeah. That same guy gave me the advice.
Yeah.
What is it? Concentrating. So you're putting it's concentration risk where you're putting all your money into one asset. Do you advise a lot on shares?
One investment
as opposed to diversification.
As opposed to diversifying across multiple different asset classes.
And is it mainly blue chip?
No, I usually give advice on investing into an index. So you buy a group of investments. So like the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies in the US.
Right.
You buy every single company in the index.
Or
So
500.
Or 500
Really?
at one time. So as you go, the market, as that index goes up, obviously your money goes up. So it's a lot lesser
Volatile.
potential for volatile periods.
Are
Whereas
you allowed to disclose your biggest return for a client? Undisclosed? Undisclosed. You can't name the client. You can't say how much money you've made for a client?
no, we can't really. It's our
We can't give
advice.
advice.
Our
But
advice.
you can't say how much money you've ever made
we're
for
not-
one client.
But we're not there to go and try and tell you this is our best performing fund. We're not. We give the investments as a facility to go and make money, long term make money. But we're not there to go and gloat about how much money we're going to go and make for a client, because that's not what gets us clients. We get clients for strategic advice.
That's a fair point.
When the market goes up, everyone wants to jump on the back of the coattails and ride it and enjoy it, and
Whatever
they
it is.
love
If it's
making money.
property,
But
if
when the
it's
market,
Bitcoin or shares, whatever it is.
when
And you're
the-
constantly on that advice to your clients.
But when the market's like at the moment, they're crashing. The US market's down 8 or 9% in the last month. Everyone was like, "Oh,
We're freaking out.
Oh, we're gonna lose all our money." Like it's a cycle. There's investment
And
cycles.
well, then you just got to come in and
And
sort
we-
of just
we
calm them
come
down.
through and educate them and calm them down and tell them, like we look at their positions to see what their
Holistically.
assets are and what assets can we actually go and use now for their retirement income needs. How much money do they need at the moment?
That's stressful on your end, but
It's stressful, but
when,
it's
when
an
it dips and you get phone calls.
Yeah, well,
coming
that's
in
at the
and-
moment. We're like the market's down 8 or 10% at the moment in the US, and they're like, "Oh, am I going to lose all my money?" I'm like, "No, we're not going. It's just a market cycle. It's Trump's doing his thing. He's putting a bit of pressure
Bit of
on
fear.
the rest of the world. The markets have been going too hard for a long period of time. It's at some stage they've got to pull back. They can't keep going."
And that's the
north whole
education
time.
piece you're talking about.
We're talking people off the ledge. The ledge, whereas if all the money is about to drop, the values are dropping in over time. We don't want to sell down when the markets drop down in value, because you're losing money then. So we're educating them to step away from the edge, look at their position, look at what their long-term plans
out,
are,
that
and
is
make
stressful
sure that they're going to be all right.
Yeah.
So,
And they trust you, I'm assuming. Like you want to
100%. Yeah,
your
like
clients are trusting your financial planners.
That's one of the big reasons both Lionel and I go physically and meet people.
I love that you do that. I
Because
genuinely love that you do that.
If you're dealing with people's whole wealth,
It's
you want to
it's
shake
personal.
their hand and look them in the eye.
And you agree, business is personal,
It
right?
is.
It is.
You're
eh?
buying the person. You're not buying the business. You're buying the person.
What do you think is your biggest challenge to earning that trust? Initially, with a new client,
Initially, it's the education piece.
right?
So I think it's showing how much you care about them. And it's not about us, the clothes we wear, the cars we drive, any of that.
It's them.
It's about them showing how much we care before showing how much we know and how we can help.
And at the same
That
time,
was
it's
very well said.
it's doing is
Good on you, bro.
Welcome, mate.
and it's doing what
Write
you
that down, bro.
and also at the same time it's doing what you say. We can talk about all the different advice and strategies
But
and what we're
acting
going
on
to do
it.
and help people and show people on paper by drawing Mr. Squiggle on a paper to show them this is how we do things, this is how we do it. But actually going through and actually doing what you say earns the trust that way, because you actually be able to show them and help them move through the process.
But
And
you know, financial planners, do they have a lane? Like, have you specifically chosen old people? like pensioners?
No,
like,
no,
you know what I
like-
mean? Like, can you target 18 to 25?
yeah, you could target any client.
But
to
have
be
you
honest.
guys built the business model like targeting a specific age?
It's just like
age group.
it's an
Lionel
example
has.
as a
Lionel
build,
has.
an example as a builder. A builder can go and build all different types of buildings:
Right.
commercial, office fit outs, residential, granny flats.
That's a good
There's
analogy.
the same analogy. And one builder can do all of them at the same time if they want. But if he focuses on one area and becomes really good in that one area and sticks
fair
to his
point.
lane, that's his lane
his
and
niche.
that's his niche. And then for me, for example, retirement planning is what I do all day, every day. That's all
great.
I
That's a
do
great
at the
way to-
moment,
yeah.
because I understand the conversations, I understand what
You
their
perfect
needs
it.
are, and I can go through the whole process really easy and help people understand their financial issues and come up with a solution, and then go through the whole process with them to take their worries
I don't
away
mind
from
that.
their
I don't
money.
like that theory. I
So-
like the niche theory.
Yeah, and that's
'Cause-
because I'm a tea and coffee type of guy. I go down, sit down with people, shake their hands.
Thank God I'm a country boy.
And then, but our conversations, like in a meeting over time, become more about the personal side of their life. The financial,
you literally get to know them.
The financial aspects is like
hard.
is like 10, 15 minutes of the whole conversation. Sometimes even less. They're like, oh, what do we have to do now? And they were going, oh, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to change. This is how it impacts your portfolio. This is what's happened in the last 12 months. And then give them projections to say, well, this is how long your money's going to last for. That's what most people are worried about. How long is my money going to last for?
That's
the
so
biggest fearful thing
that would be so fearful. That's what scares the life out of me with super.
Yeah.
Like that money is how long I've got. They see it as if that's how long they've got.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. A lot of people invest as well and have super, but that's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the finance world. But we want to sort of finish on our life. We want to finish on the lifestyle side of our channel with our listeners. We talk a lot about finances and business and all that sort of stuff. But going back to our lifestyle piece, which is pretty important these days. But I wanted to ask you, JP, how do you go from being a professional design and fit out construction director to a fisherman that adapts to his scene, that grows a beard and becomes like a caveman on his boat?
Yeah, guttering fish, eating them raw on the fish.
What is your real first love?
I think it's an outlet. Oh, yeah, I love. You're right. You nailed it. I love fishing. I love fishing. I love golf, and I love sports. I love league. I'm a rugby league tragic, soccer tragic, football, as I like to call it. I coach the under-9s, But yeah, fishing's mad. Fishing's. People tell me like I'm 100 miles an hour and I can talk underwater, blah blah blah, don't stop.
And they're
for some reason, and they're actually right. For some reason, out that ocean, when everything stops, you've got no phone reception. You're offshore, God knows how many kilometers, and I don't know. I think a big factor was that when I took it to Cooper, my son, and he took a real good liking to it. It's like anything, right? Like if your son really starts, it's our bonding time, and he started loving it, so he started YouTubing it all the time. Then I started to want to YouTube more because I wanted to know more than him. Because I like when he looks up at me and then I'm sort of giving him pointers, not the other way around.
The
competition, right? Yeah. And I just like the fact that he wants to spend time. Back to what I said, right? And then I changed boats. We had a small tinny. Then I went to a bigger tinny. Then offshore, we had to go to even a larger tinny.
You got a big tinny.
An offshore tinny.
How big's this tinny?
It's only 7.6 metre. It's a yellowfin. But it's a closed cabin.
Tiny tinny.
So offshore, mate, it's plenty big out there. But it's a different world out there. And I just love the fact that I can turn off for a bit. Yeah. And just out there, you actually get a lot of ideas. You actually think a lot about the week that was.
Why is that? Because it's calm, it's settled, there's no distractions?
Yeah, no phones are ringing. It's even at home, you're dropping off acro, picking up my daughter from acro, going as training, whatever. It doesn't really stop. Fishing is like when even I fished with Lionel heaps. When you're offshore or when even you're in a creek, river, whatever, it's just you, that rod, the country music in the background,
and hopefully those fish. And
I love that. Another outlet is obviously I coach my son's soccer team, and I'm very invested, as you can see, in my children. So
he's got a very high-paced lifestyle. So having 4 kids, a wife, a business of 27 people in it, it's crazy. So that outlet, I find,
that
is
5 or 6 hours on a Saturday.
Because when you do take the time, you actually have to take the time away from all that noise and distraction. If you don't step away from your phone and take all those phone calls, you actually don't get the recharge.
Never.
It's about recharging that.
And I live off I love the stress and I love the fast pace of anything of my life of anything. But I feel like if I didn't do that, I would definitely be burnt out. The fishing and the soccer and the league and all that. And spending time with my daughters is, fast during the week.
But you can't drive a Formula car 24 hours a day.
That's a great analogy.
You know what I mean? Driving it 24 hours a day, it's just going to blow. The wheels are going to come off. The engine's going to blow up.
Great
you need to refuel it. Yeah. Every 100%. Month.
What's your getaway, Matt? What do you do to unwind?
Sport.
There you go. Let me guess. With your kid and yourself.
With my kid, yep. And also watching rugby league.
There you go. Shout out to who? Which league team?
North Sydney Bears?
The Bears.
Bears?
That's my backyard, you know, North Sydney.
Tried to
based.
jump on the Knights, but yeah, hasn't.
Oh, so you're not a Knights fan?
Oh, do you want to just put that on record?
We might need a
The
new
Newcastle
coach.
born financial player.
No, I was born down here.
Oh, you're born
down
here.
Yeah,
Newcastle based.
Yeah. So yeah,
The
sport.
outlet, the outlet.
Sport's a big one.
You need it, right?
Yeah.
You need the outlet. So yeah, fishing is definitely high on the agenda for as long as Cooper loves it.
Yeah. So
Fish are important.
well, I think we should leave it on that note.
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's been a cracker podcast.
Thanks, JP.
Getting to know
Appreciate
you,
your time,
JP.
mate.
Man, sorry if I spoke too. Sorry if I spoke too much, but I'm sure the
Loved
editing can help shut me
But
up a bit.
speaking is what you're really good at. So
Have we stopped recording?
not yet, we're still rolling. So
Perfect.
yeah, if you're new to the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast at the Supermen Podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and all the main platforms out of the podcasting.
And
side
we're
of
going to
it.
put JP's business down in the link as well.
Shout out to these two gentlemen. Man.
So thanks for
Cracker
JP
guys.
coming on and giving us his time. It's very valuable, and he doesn't have a lot of it all the time. So
Happy
spending an hour here with us has been great. So if you do need someone for an office fit out, make sure you reach out to the team at ID Fitouts and Construction,
That's it.
and they can sure get the job done.
Nah, I appreciate it, Lionel. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Lionel. Thanks for having me.